your consideration is good, good for your soul. Oh, it's good, good, good for your soul. Oh, 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 good for your soul. Oh, oh, oh.
What's going on, family? It is your girl, Jess.
And Ari.
And this is the very first episode of our Good For Your Soul podcast. So if you are tuning in on YouTube, you see four phenomenal gentlemen that are sitting here on the couch. And if you are listening in on Apple Podcasts, we have some guests for you guys. And so we're going to introduce them. But on tonight, we are talking about the male's mind. I'm very excited to dig into this conversation here. And so on my left, I have the Malik Ballard. I have Justin Wade.
And joining on my side of the couch, which is the best side of the couch by it. We have
That
King.
was cute.
And we have Nathan Bishop. So let's get into it.
So we're going to allow them some time to introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump right into the conversation. Is that all right, gentlemen?
Yes.
All right, so we're going to start with Malik, and then we just going to move our way around the couch.
Malik Ballard, North Carolina native, black man in tech, attached to a whole bunch of stuff. But hopefully all that stuff is good for your soul. You know?
Justin Wade, second year MDiv student at Duke Divinity. I am, that means I live in Durham, North Carolina right now, but from Charlotte, North Carolina. In a relationship with a very beautiful entrepreneur here in Durham, North Carolina. She is a business owner and biomedical engineer. I can give the whole resume. But been in ministry for 13 years. Jessica is a good sister of mine, and so is Ari. And these three gentlemen here have already become big brothers to me. And excited for this conversation.
Yeah, my name is King. Born and raised in New Jersey. Name speaks for itself. A man that wears many crowns, but I'm an educator, also founder of Kingdomship, where our motto is modeling and grooming the men of yesterday to the kingdom today.
I like that. Well, I go by Bishop. I may not be a king, but I do wear many crowns as well. And actually, I achieved in many different endeavors. But anywho, I'm in HR. Also, I do event planning as well as financial planning as well. I'm from the 919 originally and born and raised. And I help mentor kids as well in around the area.
All right, so y'all heard it here first. We have some amazing, phenomenal gentlemen. And so y'all, we can really dig into the conversation.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Now?
All right, family. So we're finna get into our first question of the night. Y'all ready?
Yeah, let's
All right,
get
let's
it.
get it. So, living as an unmarried man in 2023, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that this generation of men face?
That's a lot.
It's a loaded question.
I'll
It's a
give
loaded
one.
question.
I will say finding a safe space to be vulnerable.
That's
Or rather, a better word, I like to use the word expose, because for me, vulnerability, it carries a connotation of harm after opening myself up. So finding a safe space to be oneself authentically, without always having to be edited or deleted. Like, I want to be in a space where who I am as a person and what I do is accepted, right? It doesn't mean I'm perfect, it doesn't mean that there aren't areas in my life where I can grow, but I can speak as a black man. Part of the challenges that we face is finding an area in a space that's safe, really, where you ask for the truth, we can give you the truth and not fear that the consequence might be off of our head, which is a challenge often in relationships, is like a true perspective can't be a sanitized opinion that you prefer.
Wow, that's good.
I think that a lot of men tend to let perfect get in the way of good enough.
Ooh, that's
all
good.
good, sir.
That's good.
And they don't want to start specific things. Maybe it's a business or just a new endeavor or whatever it is, because it's easy to get clouded. We all have social media platforms we all are around people who do things a little bit different, or maybe they're at a different scale, or maybe they started before and we just start to compare our story to theirs, but they're on their chapter 20. This is chapter 1 for us. So I think that that's a big problem that I can say that men face for sure.
That's good.
I got one too, actually. I think one of the battles is the, I want to say the reality or comfortability of a man being comfortable still being single at this day, in today's age. To most females, it may be shocking, like, why are you still single and you could possibly be well in this and well in that and attractive and etc. My personal opinion, I think it's another case where females kind of get stuck in a different pool when you get in our generation around this time. Like, more females are actually either got babies from different baby daddies, or now with the financial crisis that's going on in today's society, I would say most of us are in that 25, 23, 24 range. Just coming out of college, you're not expecting, like you were just saying, to have this financial breakthrough coming out of college. So your expectations right now is to get your own, but most females would want you to be that provider instantly. But until you get yourself together, it's very hard to establish a relationship. I guess that's where it gets. Part of establishing a relationship, basically, when you're comfortable trying to get yourself together. That's right.
And just to build upon that, I would say just holding yourself accountable in all aspects.
Yeah.
Accountability is key. Because with that accountability, setting boundaries. Especially with everybody. And we all can agree just the burden we have being a black man. Because I feel like just me being an educator working with young men, it's like we don't have that positive role model. You get what I'm saying? A lot of us don't. So coming in and going into that manhood, what does that look like? Like, really, if we all can sit here and ask ourselves, being a black man, what does that look like?
What's on TV?
How does that feel? Yeah, we get it. You know what I mean? There's nobody really setting the standard of, or us, I would say us, setting that standard of, this is what a black man should do. And then, acclimate that. So with our friendships, everybody's holding everybody accountable as a black man.
Yeah, so I have a follow-up question. So based on the challenges that you just identified, given your personal journeys, how have you been able to work towards overcoming that specific challenge? So for you finding that safe space, so what has been your recipe for fixing that?
So I'm big on mentorship and seeking out persons who have done life longer than me. And in my particular profession in ministry, I'm very intentional on seeking black male figures. Not that I have a problem with ministry, but because of my personal context and need, I'm intentional on trying to pinpoint who are black men who do what I do in terms of preaching, and who do what I want to do in terms of pastoring, and who have somewhat of a life that I want to live, being married and with children. And I intentionally set myself in spaces where I can glean more than I have to give out. And I think part of a challenge that our generation faces as a whole, whether male or female, is we often are trying to produce so much that we don't take a lot of time to get poured into and get developed. And it requires first that you take an honest look in the mirror and say, where are my actions that are toxic stemming from? Because it's easy to shift it all on one side, right? Which is a consequence of the fall, right? To just find the first person to blame. And I think that there are persons who are responsible for the trauma that we go through from our childhood, but I can't pinpoint all of my toxic behavior on the traumatic experiences that I had as a child. And while they may stem from those things, I have to do the work of accountability, as King pointed out, and that requires mentorship and therapy and getting over the stigma, right? That to go to therapy means I'm crazy, right? I go to therapy to prevent the crazy, right? Because the crazy is present and the crazy will come out. So I go and find people who are more mature than me, who can help me get some understanding on my own life.
Right. I'll follow up there because I feel like my response is kind of synonymous with what it is that you're saying. I think that for me, it comes from having a thorough comprehension of who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
And as for me personally, I can't speak for everybody, but my first name translates to king. My last name translates to bald head. A king, bald head is fairly clean, so a clean cut king. That's who I am.
Right.
So it's like, as for me,
Jesus, right?
I can't sit here and look at everybody else because just as simple as my name, nobody else don't have that name.
Right.
So it's like understanding that my story is different. It's not going to look like this guy. Yeah, this guy may have this by this specific age, but look at what he had to lose that he don't talk about to get what it is that he has today. People don't talk about that. You look at, Coach Prime is big now. People look at Coach Prime and, the $1 million day with the shades and coming to Colorado doing all this. People don't understand this man played not just football. This man played baseball. He was a GOAT. Like, it don't make no sense. You can talk about it all day. This man was GOATed. People don't look at that. They look at the aspect of today, what's happening now. They don't look at what happened before. So really, I think it just stems from coming and just having a thorough understanding as to who you are, and then you can start to move from there.
Again, we all have our own prospective organizations that we're a part of, but I currently hold a position of advising my local organization from my college. And seeing these guys come from high school. Now, mind you, the question that you asked, we're also dealing with a generation who has more exposure than even our generation.
Mm-hmm.
So, I ain't gonna give age, but I still also remember where, PSPs or Nintendo was the first time texting each other.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? If you ain't had a phone. But now it's easy for a young man to find porn easily at an early age, or it's easy to find something explicit, curse words, whatever it is, without any parental guidance. Right. So when they get into college, I find it that everybody wants to go with whatever the wave is, the trend. And coming to college and seeing these prospective organizations, they see it as a brand, like, oh, I want to do this. When you ask them that question, why do you want to do it? It's the same answer that you want to hear, right? But not the answer that needs to be heard. You know what I'm saying? So where I'm going with it too, though, is a lot of them struggle when they want to get in organizations or whatever because they all come from different backgrounds, right? Let's all agree when you go to college, everybody's not from the same home training. Mm-hmm. They wasn't raised with the same parents in the household. That's right. So when they go to these colleges, the difference between a high school college is this big word called freedom, and you don't have a schedule anymore like you used to. So your curiosity is built on different things, but now today's time we struggle with our curiosity as being adventured through social media, and social media tells us what our curiosity should be based on. So when that comes to relationships, when that comes to mentorship, like you said, mentorship is what they see on the ground, or if it's hip hop, if it's sports and seeing them wearing chains or whatever, that's all you want to do. Most people don't take the time to realize, like you said, it takes time to be where you want to be, right? Mm-hmm. I always tell myself, I want myself 10 years from now to be like, I appreciate what I did 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So to break it in layman's terms, I realize that most people fail with the understanding of how life is. Most people see life at a linear equation versus an exponential. Mm-hmm. And I got this from a good book. If y'all need to go, I give some pointers out there. Atomic Habits is a good book by James Clear. But most people fail to realize, like, when we see what we see on social media, whether it's relationship, money, trying to get to the bag, whatever the case, we see all our peers get money now at a young age. And kids younger than us are exposed to that. Other generation before us wasn't exposed to that. So that's cool and all, but you're judging yourself off of what your path is and not knowing what theirs was. And you have to give yourself time, because time, if you don't take it for the granted of what it is, it can either pass you by or it can be a benefit to you later on. So.
All right, so I would say with my experience is just fear. Fear is it's a mind killer. Man, it's definitely a mind killer. And I feel like nowadays, even through my experiences, do you know yourself?
Mhm.
You know, a lot of people is not being themselves. So you know, they see, like you just said, these different images, which is control. Like let's be honest, which is control. So it alters like a different being. Instead of them being themselves, you know, and looking at them like, hey, okay, that's cool. Like, yeah, that works for them.
Yeah.
But I know where I'm at right now, and this works for me.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at, yeah, you counting everybody else's blessings besides your own.
Yeah, so that I know I'm going with you because I feel like that's why I said what I said earlier about why it's hard still being single, or that difficulty of, oh, you're a man, you still single and you 25 and you got this going on. What's wrong with you? No, there's
What's
nothing
wrong
wrong
with
with
Your
you.
kids too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of people fail to realize, because my personal growth was when I've been in my past relationships, it's been long relationships too, but noticing the same thing of falling in love with someone because they love you is the biggest issue in most of today's society because of what they see on social media, wherever the case is. You know what I'm saying? Instead of finding those red flags to work on from childhood while you're single versus going into a relationship hoping that we can discover this together. Nah, dog, like let's keep it a man. Most women will find an attractive man attractive because of his confidence and how he's moving. Right. But if he never worked on those things, right, with his insecurities or with his personal development, you know what I'm saying? That would have never been the case to attract a person that's on the same vibration as you. And I feel like that's a whole other conversation, is vibrations. You know what I'm saying?
Coming that man, you know, the deepest thing is really having that emotional intelligence. Intelligent with your emotions, you know. Sometimes it's like an off and on switch, okay? So like sometimes you gotta, you know, decipher when to, you know, let loose and be aware of how you know, unlearning yourself and coping with things. You know? Like I said, it's that accountability and looking at having that self-reflection, knowing yourself, pour into yourself, like you just said, pour into yourself. Because the world is yours.
Yeah.
It's a reason why we go through these things or have these thoughts as a man, because if you know your true power as a black man, colored man, if only you knew, man. So
that's the thing though. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I was gonna ask this question because we may have someone either watching us or listening to such an amazing conversation. Their question is, where's my starting point? So where do I start in regards to my personal development? You know, because a lot of, you know, we've talked about fear. Someone talked about, you know, holding yourself accountable. We've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about, you know, knowing the value of yourself, knowing your worth, and mentorships and things of that nature. Because all of you have different journeys, and your journeys are not the same. Someone may be listening or watching this saying, all right, so where's my starting point? Where do I start?
I'm gonna tell you. As for me,
Go ahead. You got it. It's on you, bro.
As for me, I can pinpoint outside of my faith, I can pinpoint 2 videos that absolutely transformed my thinking. I'm just a completely different person. One of them is called The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale.
Okay.
And the name of this game is You Become What It Is That You Think About. The next one is going to be called The Power of Belief by David Emanitier on YouTube. Both of these are free. Once you listen to those and you really, really listen to get something from them and you start to apply the principles in these videos, you will just start to look at life from a completely different perspective, completely different. And how you view a thing is how you do a thing. So now that you look at things differently, you're going to start to do things differently. And because of that, you're going to get a different result. I can assure you, for sure.
I would say I would start by identifying the most uncomfortable area in your life that continues to show up in relationships, regardless of how healed you might think you are by the time you enter them. Whatever is uncomfortable for you to talk about is most likely what is preventing you from going to your next level.
Sir.
Right?
You're
That's
talking
good.
And so being a man of faith, the word enters the chat, if you will. And,
Well,
and so you have David, who was a strong king, right? Great in terms of militaristic strength and ability. He's able to move the capital of Israel from Shiloh to Jerusalem. But the problem is his arrogance has both the Philistines and the Israelites hating him. And until David can come face to face with himself in the darkest place, literally a cave, is God able to really grant him deliverance from the Philistines and reestablish his authority in Israel. So I say that to say, if both your enemies and your friends have the same perception of you, you might want to do some internal investigation. And it's not to say that you are going to be perfect, because the last thing I would want is for anybody, and because we are black men, I definitely wouldn't want black men to feel as if I've got to have everything together for me to enter into whatever season God may have for me, because that won't happen, right? But you have enough of a foundation and enough of an awareness to say, these are the areas that I am growing in, and these are the areas that I have overcome. And being honest with your past, right? And I think one of the challenges that we face as black men is often our past is not forgiven, because if our past does not meet the qualifications of what is expected out of a man, then we are disqualified from the next season, right?
So we're gonna put the cash app in the offering.
Right?
Y'all send the dollar sign with your soul picture and get it to
No, this is free of charge, because I think that, even if there are standards that my past did not meet, we forget that is my past, right? And very often it happens in other black Christian circles where we're still holding our past against people, or their past against them. It's like, well, what did we just finish out about this whole Jesus thing and forgiveness? And we don't often get that safe space. So I would say personally, find those uncomfortable areas and deal with your past and forgive yourself.
And I think that's good what you said about forgiveness, because I think a lot of times we are so focused on what society has to say about us and where we're supposed to be as people, period, in society. And because with every generation, society ends up changing, right? And so I think we need to get to a mindset of understanding, kind of like the apartment method. You know what I'm saying? Someone else's floor is really someone else's ceiling. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that was good for forgiveness, because a lot of times we need to forgive ourselves from, our past and be able to move forward to build, to make that ceiling, to allow that ceiling to actually become your floor.
But I think, just to add on, and I'm gonna let us go to our other brothers, from the forgiving yourself standpoint, you can't be worried about other people forgiving you if you haven't forgiven you.
There you go.
You can't hold your past over your head, because it'll hold you back moving forward as well. So it's like a double-edged sword on that end.
It is that, but you find a lot of guys that find themselves in that phantom zone because they haven't consistently brought themselves out of that past. So that's the hard thing, is shaking off that identity. You know what I'm saying? Even though you can accept it, some people get waddled into the acceptance that they don't understand how to now maneuver away from what just happened to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes I say, people confuse movement with progression. Oh yeah, I do this. You say what you're trying to do or what you're doing, but your actions never prove of you working on these things.
They be saying emotion. I got motion.
Yeah, you got motion. You ain't got no progression. Sure you wrong.
I ain't about to I definitely seen that before, but a lot of people think that just because you're busy, like your progression, it's all that eternal work. You know what I mean? That's your work.
And I'm gonna keep it a band too, though. What we talking about is also a trend. Like, you got people that's really like, oh no, I'm into this health thing now, mental health, and I'm into wealth, and we should be doing this and work on this and collab on this. But in actuality, you still ain't worked on that core for you to walk what you're saying. You know what I'm saying?
I play the devil advocate because at least we had the conversation.
That's true.
I remember a time we wasn't even having this conversation.
That's true.
So the fact that we having this conversation is making people aware of it. And I love it. But I I'll also say that you gotta be careful who you listening to. Like
Mhm.
you said,
That's
everybody,
years, yeah.
you know what I mean? Not everybody is I would say qualified
No,
to
facts.
speak on certain things.
Facts.
I mean, it's easy to get a camera and a mic
Facts.
and go on with you, how you feel.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
We need facts. Like
A lot of us can't accept constructive criticism.
Absolutely.
Especially as a young black man, you know, a lot of times, and I'm speaking on my personal experience and knowing the guys that I mentor, either they had their love detached because of the way that their mother spoke to them, or they had their love detached because their father wasn't there, and whoever stood in that place didn't treat them the way with love on communication to get them there. So whenever there's a man who knows you should be doing this, I'm like, yo, brother, you shouldn't be. Why are you sagging? Like,
Right.
for instance, we on campus, you know what I'm saying, majority of HBCUs, and this is just giving a limelight, majority of your HBCUs is gonna come from rural areas. You got people in the 252, DMV areas, Charlotte University, I'm tripping. Charlotte, but you might as well say Charlotte University.
Yeah.
The majority of the HBCUs, everybody's coming from the hubs, right? But everybody comes from a rural area to where it's difficult of communication. Their understanding of how you talk to me is not how I listen. You know what I'm saying? Your tone of voice may be, yo, stern, like, hey man, that's not how you need to be doing, pick your pants up. But in another tone, it could be like, oh, sir, let me talk to you for a second.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Come holler at me real quick. Do you know why that's the case? You feel me? However, the sad part is about our culture is a lot of us only listens to violence versus something that's more soft-spoken. You feel me? So that's just like another issue with trying to get to that conversation. Your conversation is great, but again, how do you work on these consistent attributes to where you're trying to go to?
But stuff like this, and I don't think, you know, we really understand how powerful this moment is.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
You have 4 black men from 4 different walks of life
Yes.
sitting in the same space, 4 different perspectives and viewpoints. And not that we disagree on what a man would be or what a man is, but different angles of how we approach the man in conversation. Sitting civilly, nicely dressed or whatever, you know, a part of different organizations, but all of us coming together because we heard the call from black women to say, hey, can we have a conversation to hear from your perspective? So this is a very powerful moment. And I think a lot of the conversation from black man to black man that often young black men hear is not as civil as this. A lot of that has to contribute to the music that we're listening to. A lot of that has to contribute to a lot of the movies that are produced that we find entertaining. The shows that we find entertaining, right? We love to feast on the drama of a black man having a whole lot of women, a lot of scandals. We love that. And so conversations like this, where it's like, okay, you got 4 black men rooted in North Carolina in the South, right, with a legacy of racism and segregation coming from institutions that overcame those experiences or in the process of trying to apologize for the history that it holds. This is a very powerful moment. And so if we got more of this, right, and we move it to an intergenerational conversation, so now you've got 2 seasoned black men and 2 younger black men talking about what each generation has or the lack thereof. You create a systemic change that we're looking for in government. But if we started here
At the root.
to where the hub is, everybody,
soul is.
right? We all know that some of our best conversations have come from the barbershop. Some of our best therapy has been in the chair. You know, you could talk about it there because when you got home, it couldn't take too much about it. But we had a space, man, where we can often fellowship, and that helps to create a structural change.
So let's kind of wrap this conversation up just a little bit. So this is gonna be the last question before we get into the next segment. The last question that I have is for each and every single one of you. If you could give a 16-year-old boy some advice, what would you say to them?
You got more for you than who are against you.
Wow, that's good.
And that is what I would say to 16-year-old Justin Wayne,
Wow.
right? And most of your criticism will come from people who are upset that they can't get to where God has destined you to go. And not everything has to be digested because it comes from someone older than you. It's all, you're never too young to inspect the fruit of the people talking to you.
Oh man, I would say if I could give some guidance to my 16-year-old self, I would say that understand that as a black man, there is no such thing as a definition to you.
Wow.
Because as a black man, you should be whatever you need to be in any given moment. For your friends, for your family, you may need to be vulnerable. You may need to be strong. You may need to be dead silent. You may need to be the voice of reason. There is no definition to a black man. So it's not a one size fit. It's not none of that. There is no definition. So all you gotta do is just walk into your greatness. The world is yours. Everything you got it. You got it. Whatever it is that you want to be, it's already done. All you gotta do, the only difference between where you are and where you want to be is your decision to get there by any means necessary or not. Whatever it takes, get done.
What would y'all say, y'all 16-year-old selves?
I'll let you go.
If I can tell to my 16-year-old self, I'll just tell him, choose you always. Choose you. Choose you. Trust yourself. In all your decisions. And embrace the journey. Like, boy,
Yeah.
life is crazy.
Yeah, man.
Crazy, crazy. So just embrace the journey and just know that God is always with you. You'll be alright because always at the end, somehow, some way, you figure it out. And that's you'll figure it out. God, whoever you want to praise to, send somebody on on your path, right in time, right when you think, man, this is it. Somebody show up and just chew the meat and spit out the bones with the information.
Yes, sir.
Chew the meat and spit out the bones and just trust yourself, trust your gut, because you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
You're gonna be that king.
Yes, sir.
Black king.
Yes, sir. Strong.
Oof. If y'all can bear with me on how I express this, if I was to, which I am, which is crazy that I'm doing this currently, telling my younger brothers out there that are 16 years old to look at the tree of life, and I'm gonna explain it to you. This will give you the guidance on how to socialize with everybody that's around. If you look at a tree, most of the times in our lives, we're gonna find friends at all times that are like leaves of a tree, that are gonna be seasonal.
Yeah.
And they're gonna come in times where you're like, oh, we best friends because we the same, we look the same, we might be the same, but it may be another season where it's like, oh, you gone.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna break this down. Just bear with me, because I learned a little bit. But there are three different type of people, and I'm gonna break it down to this tree. And those are constituents, those are comrades, and confidants. Constituents are those who are going to be those leaves on that tree that don't want to see you do anything. They just there around for the fun or whatever the case is, but always talking junk behind your back. But they look alike, but they in your circle. You know what I'm saying? Then you have people who are your comrades. A comrade is someone who is with you until we get to our equal location.
Right.
And the tree in that manner would be a branch. Most of us feel like we find people, either it's a girl in a relationship or our best friends in a time of some type of situation where we feel like we can be comfortable. But the moment that you're comfortable and you put more weight on that branch will snap. And a lot of us feel like once that branch snaps at a young kid's age that life is over. Like, I ain't got nothing else to fight for. And that could be family. You know what I'm saying? So that's your comrades. And finally, you're gonna have your third one, which is a confidant. A confidant is someone that doesn't want nothing from you, but just want to see you grow. Now this is the best part about the tree. The most strongest part about the tree is what? It's roots. The crazy thing about its roots, and this also goes to time for you young brothers that are 16 or whatever. The thing about roots, most people don't realize, but mulch and dirt is really manure. In other words, it's dirt, it's SHIT, whatever you want to call it, poop. Sometimes you gotta have dirt put on you in order for you to grow to where you want to go. And to be honest with you, you want to have those roots with you in times like that to figure out when those weather conditions come, that those are the strongest people for you that just want to see you grow. And the other thing to that is time, because a root is at the same length just as much as with grass. The only difference is over time, are you going to be a tree or are you going to be still at the same level as that grass that you see? So that's my message to a 16-year-old. Like, you know, just take your time to figure out how to navigate your social life. And it's fine to mess up sometimes.
Sheesh.
Stay focused.
Well,
man.
Yeah,
Stay moving along.
And I like that.
At least for right now.
Right now.
Right
16.
now.
Leave it alone.
Y'all not getting married.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
He'll be there. Times 10.
That's good. That's good stuff. Well, Jess, what you thinking?
Listen.
You thinking?
I think y'all look good for your soul.
Yeah.
I think y'all look good.
Go ahead and clap it up.
Thank
Definitely thank you, fellas, so much for your time, for your insights, for your value. We now know accountability is good for your soul.
Yeah.
We know mentorship is good for your soul.
Yeah.
Learning yourself and being true to yourself is good for your soul.
Mhm.
And just knowing it's okay to not be okay all the time is also
Yeah.
good for your soul.
Yeah.
So we want to thank y'all again from the bottom of our hearts. We'll definitely
Thank y'all for
have y'all
having us.
back.
Thank you.
For those of you who are tuning in on Apple Podcasts, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, Facebook, whatever you're listening on. Thank you for joining us. Keep this conversation going in the comments below, and we will definitely see y'all next go round.
Next time.
All right, bye y'all.